the contribution of our forefathers who have helped in creating a world based on freedom and human dignity. I extend my respect to the people of diverse cultures, faiths, colors, and genders, and pledge to work for equity, inclusivity, peace, and harmony. Good afternoon to one and all present here. I, Khushi Srivastav, a first-year student of DME Media School, welcome you to the 5th edition of the world's first 7-day hybrid international media conference, ICAN5. The International Media Conference ICAN5 is being organized by DME Media School of Delhi Metropolitan Education in collaboration with the School of Communication and Creative Arts, Deakin University, Melbourne, Australia. I would like to take a moment and introduce Delhi Metropolitan Education to our audience. Delhi Metropolitan Education, DME, is an A-grade premier educational institute affiliated to Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University, New Delhi, and approved by the Bow Council of India. DME Media School is one of the most promising media institutes in the country. It offers BA in journalism and mass communication. It is recognized as school focused on the growth of its faculty and students through academic and co-curricular activities. ICAN5 has come with the theme Inclusivity, Convergence, and Alternative Negotiations with hashtag Communication for All. ICAN5 has the support of 17 partners, including the International Association of Media and Communication, Research, Gender, and Communication Section, IAMCR, Gen Section, and GMEC, Global Media and Education Council as the conference partners. Knowledge partners for ICAN5 are Makhanlal Chaturvedi University, Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh, Vigyan Prasad, Government of India, and KSF, Keshav Suri Foundation. For ICAN5, international partners are Institute for International Journalism, Ohio University, USA, Green University, Bangladesh, and Daffodil International University, Bangladesh. For ICAN5, we have Beacon House National University as our cultural partner. Our media partners for ICAN5 are Amar Ujala, The Policy Times, Jai Hind Times, and the Hindi Post. ICAN5 is powered by Asian Media and Cultural Studies Network, Australia-India Film Practitioners and Researchers Network, SPARC, the Student Council of DME Media School, and RIM, Research and Innovation in Media, Research Cell of DME. The conference is supported by NOTO, National Organ and Tissue Transplant Organization, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India. Since 2018, DME Media School has been organizing the international conference ICAN. The themes for the former editions were India and Changing Aspects of News in ICAN1, Indian Cinema and Alternate Networks in ICAN2, Issues of Community, Agenda and News in ICAN3, Information, Communication and Artificial Networks in ICAN4. ICAN5 will witness a total of 26 sessions, including 18 live sessions, 5 hybrid sessions, and 3 physical sessions. The schedule comprises of 10 technical sessions, 3 workshops, 2 master classes, 2 plenary sessions, and 5 panel discussions. Proud to mention here, all the 10 technical sessions are being chaired by women scholars representing different states and countries. It gives me immense pleasure that ICAN5 will go live on the official Facebook page of DME for various sessions. For more information, follow us on our social media handles. We are sharing the links in the chat box. Now, I invite Professor Dr. Amrish Saxena, Dean DME Media School and convener for ICAN5, to give his opening remarks for the session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Khushi. I begin today by acknowledging the contribution of our forefathers who have helped in creating a world based on freedom and human dignity. I extend my respect to people of diverse culture, faith, color, and gender, and pledge to work for equity, inclusivity, peace, and harmony. I welcome everybody in this session, the second session of the third day of ICAN5, We started the conference on Friday, and since yesterday and today, a number of sessions are being organized. Now, the way we have planned the sessions, like there are plenary sessions, panel discussions, master classes, and workshops. And since this year's theme is a little bit different as compared to the themes which were there of the last 4 years of ICAN conference, since we were focusing on inclusivity, diversity, and the alternative negotiations in a way wherein we are talking about creating some alternative platforms of communication, wherein we may be departing from the mainstreams, and we are talking about any such things wherein the inclusivity is in the fore, the freedom and dignity is in the fore. And that is how we requested the Keshav Suri Foundation to be with us in this endeavor. And Akshay Tyagi accepted our request, and he has joined this conference by bringing two sessions for us. This is a session which is online. Another session will be happening on day after tomorrow, and that will be in the physical space when Akshay and his team will be coming to DME, and we will be having a session in the studio. And the way we have conceived everything in this conference, we have tried to bring, and that has happened for the first time in any conference, not only the media conference, wherein there is a representation of all three countries of Indian subcontinent. There is a representation from Pakistan, there is a representation from Bangladesh. So earlier our focus has been mainly to the West, towards the West, and there was a reason behind, because in the second edition, from the second edition of ICAN, we have collaborated with the Deakin University, Melbourne, Australia. So our partner was from Australia. So that is how our focus was more towards, we should say either Europe or the USA. But then beyond Australia, Europe, and the USA, now we have focused on India and the Indian subcontinent, and two universities of Bangladesh and one university of Pakistan, they have come with us in making this endeavor. And like previous years, it's not only the number of the partners, the way we try to bring everybody to the same page, to the same platform. Right from Vigyan Prasar to Noto, because again we are all for bringing a scientific temper by organizing such kind of academic endeavors. So we are very clear as to what we are doing, and what exactly is the concept, what exactly is the thought which we are pursuing. And we believe that with the support of so many like-minded people and the like-minded organizations, we will be able to create that kind of niche which is very much necessary in creating a society wherein everybody is treated equal, and everybody is getting all those opportunities which are available to somebody else without any discrimination. So in a way, we are standing against any sort of discrimination. Though if we talk about Indian Constitution, there are so many inherent things made there or written there. But when it comes to practice, we find that we do not have a society which is based on equity and human dignity. So that's the basic focus of the conference. And I believe that this session will take a step further in that direction. And I welcome Akshay Tyagi and his team, Sourav Gupta, Mohul Sharma, and Nandini, that they have kindly agreed to be here and talking to our students and the teachers, and not only the students and the teachers of DME, but the students from other institutions have also joined in this session, or there are people who are watching the program on Facebook Live. So I welcome everybody, and I'm looking forward to having such a lively session wherein I believe that many of us will be unlearning or relearning about all the segments of our society. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. I'm happy to share that Journalism at the Rate DME is the official newsletter of DME Media School. This fortnightly publication covers all the major activities happening in and out of the campus. It is a student-centric newsletter carried out entirely by them under the supervision of faculty members. DME TV is our official YouTube channel where you can find the playlist related to all the sessions, lecture series, film festivals, and conferences. Today, we have gathered here for the panel discussion 1 on the topic Understanding the Rainbow. Our session is supported by KSF, Keshav Suri Foundation, a global platform to uplift, empower, and connect LGBTQIA+ community. Now, I would like to welcome our panelists for the session, Mohul Sharma, F&B Associate at the Lalit, New Delhi, Sourav Gupta, Senior Executive Learning and Development at the Lalit, Great Eastern Kolkata, Nandini Kadam, AM Marketing and PR at the Lalit, Mumbai. Also, I would like to welcome and introduce the moderator for session, Akshay Tyagi, Head Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, Keshav Suri Foundation. He is a diversity and inclusion expert and has been actively involved in advocacy work for the LGBTQ+ community. He has been working with NGOs at the grassroots level in India to help create an equal and equitable society. His research paper investigating the impact of exclusion and discrimination on the health and rights of transgender persons in Delhi has been funded by UNAIDS. He is also the Youth Task Force member at UNAIDS for Sustainable Development Goals SDGs 2030. He has been a panelist at The Future of Diversity Being LGBTQ+ in the New Normal, event organized by the Belgian Embassy, Manila. He has also spoken at several forums, including the Queer Awadh Literature Festival, Australian Embassy's session on art and gender, American Embassy's discussion on allyship. He has presented his recommendation and way forward to Niti Aayog on SDGs and LGBTQ+ community at the UN House, Delhi. Akshay is also working with various colleges to create a roadmap for safe and inclusive campuses. Now, I hand over the session to our moderator, Akshay Tyagi. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Khushi, for the lovely introduction. And thank you, DME, for having us as knowledge partners for this conference. I think the very premise of diversity, equity, and inclusion is about recognizing the diversity that exists around us. Because I personally believe that in our journey of understanding people, what is more important is to recognize them first. Because the time you will recognize them, you will make an effort to understand them better, because you will then make an effort to reach out and communicate. And that communication will certainly create a lot of belongingness between you, which will lead to acceptance. And the moment you will recognize, you will understand and accept the diversity that exists around you, you will certainly find your way of supporting the communities out there, which will actually make you act. And that is what is we are discussing today at this forum. And I think it's been really commendable of what DME has been doing since a while, because we have been part of last year's venture as well, when you celebrated Pride Month, and we actually did a virtual session. And I really appreciate that, irrespective of what the nature has actually succumbed us to be in, irrespective of COVID, our efforts towards ensuring diverse, inclusive, and safe spaces for our queer students across the country have not gone down. And I think this again deserves a huge round of applause on for each one of you at DME to ensuring that people feel that they're recognized and valued. And I had seen the videos of your Pride Month celebrations as well. And it gives me a lot of pride, because I think most of you, I don't know if you're aware, but Dr. Saxena has been the director at the college where I had graduated from. And most of your teachers happened to be my professors as well when I was in graduation. And all of them had closely seen our journeys, how we had grown. And I think it becomes even more relevant, because when you don't have a personal experience, but the narratives that you connect with in your journey help you become the kind of person you have always wanted to become. Talking about a bit myself, like I studied development communication from Jamia, and why I started working with the LGBTQI plus community is that it was sort of unplanned. I happened to start with a project, which I'm sure most of you know that when you are pursuing masters, it's a professional course. You have to work on photo books, research papers, videos, etc., etc. My journey also started with them. I had no personal connect. We had some students in our college as well, but they were not out at that time because the discussions around the LGBTQI spectrum weren't that openly discussed. So I think it took us some time, and I started with those of the narratives. I started believing in those stories and started doing what I was doing. And those beautiful days of and my experiences with the community certainly pushed me more to work with the community. And I think that's one of the reason why I, beyond just my biological family, also have a very beautiful extended family. And three of my family members are present in this session with me today. And I think I will not do justice if I'll get to introduce them. So I will let them introduce themselves first, and then I'll begin the conversation. So Sourav, would you like to start first?
Namaskar, everybody. I'm Sourav Gupta, and I am taking care of the Lalit Great Eastern Kolkata as their L&D executive, senior executive. And I am so grateful that Mr. Tyagi has wanted me to be a part of this session, and I'm a part of this session. And it gives me so much of pride and so much of happiness being a part of this session because there's so much of young generation. Like I just heard Khushi speaking so well about the background of the brand which we are taking care of, and so lively she was, and she was so much into it. It gives me so much happiness seeing that. And coming from then, I have been a part of this hospitality industry since 7 years now. So I'm taking care. I have a background of front office, and now I'm taking care of the learning and development of the Lalit Suri Hospitality Group as well. And I belong to a joint family, and yes, I'm a very happy-go-lucky person, and I'm very active on social media, very socially. I don't know whether I'm socially acceptable, but I'm very socially active, and I make friends easily. And yeah, I love being happy. I love food. I love colors. It's just all about it. Live your life the way you want to. That is what I do. Over to you, Mr. Keshav.
Thank you, Sourav. Nandini?
Namaskar, everyone. Myself, Nandini. I work at the Lalit Mumbai as an assistant manager in marketing and communications and public relations. Apart from that, I work as a script consultant, casting coordinator, and many more stuff. So it's lovely to be here and looking forward to the session.
Thank you, Nandini. Mohul?
Hello, namaskar everyone. So myself Mohul Sharma, and my pronoun is he, him, his. I identify myself as a trans man, and it's been 4 years that I'm working with the Lalit Suri Hospitality Group, and I work there as an F&B associate. And always thank you so much, Akshay sir, for inviting me. And the best part is that you always wanted to, awareness about the trans man community. Like you always want के हाँ हम सबको लेके आते हैं, but you always want के trans men community को भी represent करना चाहिए या representation उनकी बढ़नी चाहिए. So thank you for always supporting me and especially for the trans man community. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mohul. And I think it's not just about you being trans man. I think there is much more about you that we celebrate, and that's one of the reason of you being here, but certainly not all the reason of your existence today here. On that note, I think most of you are aware that we are going to talk about understanding the rainbow. Having said that, since you all are students, I'm going to put some questions to my fellow panelists today based on their personal experiences with respect to students. And I think this is somewhere where you can connect your role and you can understand a lot more on your part, what is exactly to be done. So Sourav, I will start with you. I know that you're working in the learning and development sector, right? And you come across students from different industries, and of course a lot of people from the industry like hospitality industry. Based on your experiences so far, like you have mentioned that it's been 7 years of you working, how has been your experience, and how well do you think that kids are aware about sex, gender, and sexual orientations?
Okay, so it's quite a roller coaster ride for them to. पहले जो था, we'll talk in local language Hindi also, so that people over here, all the audience could relate and connect. So pehle it was kind of a taboo, but now I'm really shocked to see a class 9 student, just like 1 week before, a relative of mine, she's in class 9. She was talking about LGBT community so openly, and she knew so much more than me. And I was so happy to see that. ये चीज मुझे पहले when I was in school, so when I was also coming out of the closet, when I did not understand what was happening with me, what my orientation is, and how do I understand myself, it was way more difficult to accept myself than people to accept me. उस समय बहुत ही दिक्कत होता था, and I feel उस समय we people do not. It was coming out, but not really into the people's head. There is something called LGBTQ community or any kind of a sexual orientation a person can have. So definitely now I can relate to it, because there is so much of open-minded people, likely-minded people all around, and coming it from colleges and students. It's a part of curriculum activities also in schools right now. In few of the schools where people have been taught about sexual orientation, gender, and sex differences. Many of us even do not know what is the difference between gender and sex. सबको यही लगता है कि सब एक ही शब्द है, लेकिन gender and sex are basically two different rules. Sex is something related. आपका sex is something on biological terms, जो आपका है, जो whatever your body is represented. But gender is something which is made by the society. It encompasses the societal norms. So this is the difference between sex and gender. तो अभी ये आस्ते आस्ते we as Keshav Suri Foundation, or we ICAN, or many other campaigns and NGOs, we are coming up with these ideas, and people are opening, accepting, and there are likely-minded people all around, and there is acceptance. Leaving behind, I would not talk about the negative part as such right now, but yes, there is a lot of acceptance now.
Thank you, Sourav. I think this is very well put. And to just add that sex is basically what you are biologically born as. And it is not just male and female. It also includes intersex people, because they're one of the communities less talked about. And I'm sure most of you have heard of stories wherein you have learned that Hijra people used to take kids. And so just to add, कि जन्म से कोई हिजड़ा नहीं होता है. Hijra is a culture which people adopt at the later stage. And people who hijras used to take along with them used to be intersex people. और वो इसलिए नहीं क्योंकि उनको वो ले जाने होते थे, वो इसलिए क्योंकि पेरेंट्स अपने बच्चों को अबेंडन कर देते थे. तो I think this is something which is very much important for all of us to understand. On that note, I'll take it forward with Mohul. Mohul, just like you mentioned that trans men community is actually more marginalized community within the marginalized community, right? Like the number is still very less, and I'll not again complain that there are not many people who are coming out, because it's a process. And at the end of the day, we also need to realize that we as a society have nothing much to offer back to the community even if they come out. But I'm sure that most of your experiences will certainly help most of us in this conference relate with it. So would you like to throw some light on your journey on a personal note?
So सबसे पहले I just want to like tell everybody that trans men कौन होते हैं, so that थोड़ा सा पता लग जाए कि okay है. So trans men वो लोग होते हैं who are born with a female sex organs. Okay. वो ऐसा बॉर्न होते हैं, एज अ फीमेल बॉर्न होते हैं. उसके बाद जैसे वो आगे मतलब अपनी लाइफ आगे उनकी प्रोसेस करती है, उसके अलावा ये है कि वो लोग अपनी बॉडी में अपने आप को कंफर्टेबल फील नहीं करते हैं. दे स्टार्ट फीलिंग लाइक अ बॉय, लाइक यार आई एम ट्रैप्ड इन अ बॉडी. नहीं यार, मतलब मेरी बॉडी गलत है, या मतलब उनका जो उनकी सेक्सुअल ओरिएंटेशन होती है वो एज अ मेल होती है. So with the help of HRT, which is hormones replacement therapy, and with the help of with the surgeries, तो वो अपने आप को एज अ मेल अपने आप को करते हैं. So this is the first. And second thing is that कि ट्रांस मैन कम्युनिटी मार्गिलाइज इसलिए है, उनकी रिप्रेजेंटेशन इसलिए कम है क्योंकि जब बचपन से एक लड़की घर में पैदा होती है तो उसको सिखाया जाता है कि बेटा आपको कैसे बिहेव करना है, कैसे बिहेव नहीं करना है, राइट, कि आपको कहाँ बोलना है, कितना कम बोलना है. तो आप खुद सोचो कि एक ट्रांस मैन बचपन से जिसको एज अ लड़की ट्रीट किया गया हो, आगे जाके उसके लिए बहुत डिफिकल्ट होता है अपने आप को कम आउट करना एज अ मैन, कि हाँ मैं ऐसा हूँ. और कहीं ना कहीं हमारी सोसाइटी में वो डर भी रहता है कि अगर मैंने कम आउट कर लिया तो लोग मुझसे क्वेश्चन क्या पूछेंगे, तेरी कौन सी सर्जरीज हुई हैं, लाइक क्या क्या चीजें हैं, तो वो भी कहीं ना कहीं है. एंड इफ यू टॉक अबाउट माय जर्नी, सो आई स्टार्टेड माय ट्रांजिशन इन 2017 व्हेन आई वाज 19 ईयर ओल्ड. जब मैं 19 साल का था, उससे पहले मुझे कुछ भी नहीं पता था चीजों के बारे में, लाइक LGBTQI कम्युनिटी क्या होती है. मुझे सिर्फ एक ही वर्ड पता था, विच इज मेल, फीमेल एंड थर्ड जेंडर, कैसा होता है. बट हाँ ये है कि उसके बाद धीरे धीरे करके व्हेन आई सॉ सत्यमेव जयते, उसमें मैंने देखा था कि ट्रांस वुमेन एक गजल ढालीवाल मैम है, उनको देखने के बाद देन आई स्टार्टेड रिलेटेड माई सेल्फ कि ओके फाइन ऐसी चीजें होती हैं. एंड उसके बाद जब चीजें आई नीड टू फाइंड आउट, लाइक आज से 5 साल हो जाएंगे मुझे जुलाई में अपना HRT स्टार्ट करते हुए. 5 साल पहले इट वॉज वेरी डिफिकल्ट फॉर मी टू सर्च ऑनलाइन के क्या चीजें होती हैं, क्या चीजें नहीं होती हैं. एंड आफ्टर 5 years इट्स मतलब ऐसा हो गया है कि चीजें इतनी डिफिकल्ट नहीं है, इतनी ज्यादा रिप्रेजेंटेशन नहीं है, बट हाँ ये है कि कम भी नहीं है. लाइक ऐसा है कि आपको 4 साल पहले आपने सिर्फ ऐसा सुना होगा कहीं पे कि एक लड़का से लड़की बन गया है, लड़की से लड़का बन गया, बट अब धीरे धीरे करके चीजें बदलती जा रही हैं. एंड विच इज वेरी गुड फॉर अस. एंड या मतलब मेरी जर्नी के बारे में आप बात करोगे, इट वॉज वेरी डिफिकल्ट फॉर मी अपने पापा को मनाना. एंड उनको, क्योंकि एंड आई अंडरस्टैंड विद द पेरेंट्स पर्सपेक्टिव एज वेल, कि उनके लिए ये है कि इट्स लाइक कि आपने बहुत डिफिकल्ट है, क्योंकि सोसाइटी में हमारे में हमेशा से उनको वो चीज दिखाई गई है जो चीज सच नहीं थी. जैसे कि अभी अक्षय सर ने बताया कि हिजड़ा इज अ कल्चर, इट्स नॉट अ जेंडर और समथिंग एल्स. हिजड़ा एक कल्चर है, तो वैसे ही कि उन्होंने सुना ही वही था. एंड धीरे धीरे करके आई गेस इट ज्यादा प्रॉब्लम मतलब आ सकती हैं, बट आई एम वेरी हैप्पी कि एटलीस्ट कॉलेजेस एंड स्कूल्स में अब बात होना स्टार्ट हो गया है. बिकॉज मेरे टाइम पे एंड आई एम श्योर सौरभ सर के टाइम पे तो वो चीजें कभी हमने सोची भी नहीं थी. सो ये है. एंड नाउ आई एम फीलिंग लाइक कि यस नाउ आई लाइक मैं एक मोहुल शर्मा हूँ. बचपन से हमेशा से मेरी यही एक पहचान थी कि मुझे हर एक इंसान मेरे डेड नेम को छोड़ के मेरे रियल नेम से बुलाए. एंड नाउ आई एम इन फ्रंट ऑफ यू एज अ मोहुल शर्मा. बहुत अच्छा लगता है अपने आप को, अपनी पहचान जो बचपन से एक मैंने देखी थी एक लड़के को के रूप में, आज वो पहचान मुझे फाइनली मिल रही है.
थैंक यू मोहुल. आई थिंक इसमें दो चीजें बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है वो हम सबके लिए. वो ये एक तो कि स्टोरी टेलिंग बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, बिकॉज व्हेन यू hear stories, when you listen to stories, you certainly get more power. Like Mohul mentioned, Ghazal Dhaliwal's story gave him hope, and I'm sure somebody out there will certainly be getting some sort of an hope and inspiration from Mohul's presence as well today. Moving on, I have a question for Nandini. Nandini, I briefly spoke about Hijra community just a second before, like about that it's a culture, and you proudly represent that culture. You probably are part of that Hijra community. As a response to yourself as well, like there have been a lot of people outside who says that Hijra people only beg or are involved in sex work, right? And then you are successfully handling marketing and communications department, and I think you are the perfect example for so many people who are still categorizing the transgender or specifically the Hijra community for certain tasks. While this is no crime, and I think this is part of the culture, which is which should be as accepted as everything else is getting accepted. But I'm sure there must be a whole lot of story of you identifying yourself as different, because this is how we are now talking about communities. And then you certainly have had your own journey. Would you like to throw some light on that?
So, Akshay, the reason I could be where I am today is because of the privilege which I carry. A, I'm educated. B, I'm well spoken. So, all these things add when you uh, give a basic interview to an HR when they are recruiting. That was one of the reason why I got hired. And I got hired everywhere. Even when I used to work in a call center, I got hired. But that time, my entire journey was different. I have seen Hijra since childhood, and I used to be scared of them. Whenever they used to be around me, I used to be like, no, no, they would do something to me. And the reason this fear didn't come from within me, but this fear was, shoved in my brain
Created.
through my parents. It was put in my brains with my through my parents, कि ये लोग उठा के लेके जाते हैं. And I was feminine kid. I was extremely feminine. Now I don't relate to the feminine aspects of myself, but now I mean, like, since childhood I was extremely feminine. I used to love to dance and everything. There was not even a single bone in my body which could move in a masculine way. I was that feminine. And slowly I started realizing when you're a child, sometimes parents in the society think it's kind of cute, till you're 3 or 4, it's kind of cute. And then 4, 5, 6, it is embarrassing. 7, 8, 9, then you're like shame to the entire family. Then you're like this black sheep of the entire family. And that time, today I can voice my opinions. Today I'm quite opinionated. I can speak about myself and about my community. Apart from the Hijra community, I can speak about the entire, rainbow spectrum. It's only because I have that kind of confidence कि अभी अगर मुझे कोई accept नहीं करता, मुझे उस acceptance की जरूरत ही नहीं है. The biggest meherbani which I have done on myself is accepting myself. So I don't care if someone is accepting me or not. I really don't care. What I care about is because my gender should not come in between my basic human rights, which is rights of getting security, rights of getting employment, and rights of getting education. That those are our basic needs, and I think they should be fulfilled, regardless of whoever you are. People who are sitting in the audience, they might be different from me, but I'm still accepting them. I'm still talking to them over a video call. I'm still giving a session, and I might be different for them. But still they are listening to me. So that is how we build diversity and inclusion. Your thoughts may be different, your opinions may be different from mine, but at the end of the day, we have to come together and let the life go on. So that's what I feel. I mean, about talking about the Hijra community, as you correctly mentioned, that this is our culture. So to be very honest, begging in trains, begging at signals was never in our culture. This was not part of our culture. If you read and if you understand what all I have learned from my gurus and all the ancestors, luckily I have always tried to juggle and be with my community also, because it's very important for you as a person, and when you speak on such platforms, to understand what your community is actually about. It's not only about begging. Begging, we were never meant to do begging. We were on the demigod status during the ancient times. Then Mughal came and Mughal, took everyone from the Hijra community, and they literally placed them into their harems because their queens weren't safe. And then Britishers came. So the most, सबसे ज़्यादा अगर हमारे culture को किसी ने harm किया है, तो it is the Britishers. Our basic thing was, whenever there is a celebration, whenever there's a wedding, whenever there's a birth ceremony, you just have to go, you have to give your blessings. And there's also a reason why people say that our blessings works. Like a lot of stuff, a lot of things are there which relate to it. But this was our job. We were never meant to do sex work. We were never meant to do begging in trains or in stands. This is because of the Britishers we are forced to do it. And my entire community is forced to do it. Don't you think that half of हमारे community में कितने लोग हैं जिनको job करना है, जिनको education लेना है? Even for me as a child, when I am a second year dropout, I didn't even complete my graduation. I'm a second year dropout. The reason, अगर इतने ऊंचे स्तर पर आके भी अगर मैं अपनी education को छोड़ दूँ, तो उसके पीछे कोई तो reason रहेगा. Today, when I go to every college or every school, mostly colleges, whenever I go to college, I feel very happy that at least they are taking an initiative of doing this. हमारे टाइम पे तो बोलते ही नहीं थे, and बात ही नहीं होता था. And as a child, I have if I could forget one instance or say one क्या बोलते, एक अगर एक जीवन की एक कथा को अगर मैं मिटाना चाहूँ, तो वो होगा मेरा स्कूल. My school days were not good. My school days were the worst days of my life, and I think everyone who's sitting, the panelists, they would agree. School days were the worst days of my life. I have never been safe in school. I've never been felt safe by my teachers also in school. Students तो सी बच्चे अगर भगवान का अवतार होते तो वही बच्चे शैतान का अवतार भी हो जाते, पर मेरे टीचर्स जिनको हम बोलते हैं कि आफ्टर आवर पेरेंट्स द पीपल हु वी लुक अपॉन आर आवर टीचर्स, एंड इट्स नॉट इवन देयर मिस्टेक, इवन दे हैव नॉट बीन गाइडेड, और उनको वो गाइड बुक दिया नहीं गया है कि कैसे एक LGBTQI बच्चे के साथ डील करना चाहिए। पर उस टाइम पे तो मुझे भी ये गाइड बुक नहीं दिया था, तो मुझे भी काफी प्रॉब्लम है। अगर उस टाइम पे इफ इवन वन टीचर वुड स्टूड अप एंड टेल एनीवन कि डोंट डू दिस टू दिस पर्सन, दैट वुड हैव अ डिफरेंट इफेक्ट. And today when I see all these colleges taking efforts, I feel really good. And I think whatever I have achieved in my life, usko ek side pe rakh ke, the day this is my dream, when I'll go to my school to speak about gender, that will be my real achievement. In fact, when my HSBC ad got released, my teacher messaged me and she was like, I'm very proud of you. And I'm like, when are we doing a gender sensitization session in our school? And she didn't respond. That's how, I mean, it should change, and it should change drastically because world is changing. There will be people, see, aaj agar hum log 24, 23, I joined the Hijra community when I was in 2020 during the lockdown. Usse pehle I was shit scared. I was like, I am not financially ready. बिकॉज मेरा हमेशा तो यही था कि जो ये कर रहे हैं वो ठीक है, और ऐसा नहीं कि वो मैंने किया नहीं है. आई हैव begged in trains. Now I know value of 1 rupee. I have done sex work, so I know value of how my friend or my community people stand on that street risking their life the entire night. I know that pain also. So ये सब जानना बहुत important है when you're part of the community कि इनके problems क्या है. Also, and this experience helped me when I was working in an NGO to understand what are their problems, why they don't want to work, why they don't want to study. Even if you will give them a job, you will find half of my community people who would not even be 10th pass. So what is the reason them not being given a basic 10th pass student? It's because their education it's not up to the mark. I'm going to school to get educated, to learn something new. I'm not going to a school to get teased, to get harassed. Whenever you're working, if I'm doing a job, मुझे क्या चाहिए, मैं अपना काम डिलीवर करूं. मैनेजर जो सुनाएगा वो अलग बात है, दैट इज प्रोफेशनल स्टफ, वो अलग बात है. बट जो हमारे आसपास के लोग हैं वो हमारे साथ कैसे बिहेव कर रहे हैं वो भी कहीं हद तक मैटर करता है. सो अगर वो सब हम लोग ने एक बार सही कर लिया तो आई डोंट थिंक सो कि आगे जाके कोई प्रॉब्लम होगा. दैट्स इट.
Thank you, Nandini. I think there are 2-3 more important points for us to remember from this conversation, that whilst it was Britishers who introduced this Section 377 and then put the entire community at risk, they certainly had removed all sort of restrictions within their own countries, and now we are battling with them.
Britishers had removed 777, but Britishers also brought in one another law for us.
Yeah,
so
there is a lot more which is required, be it terms of your hereditary laws, be it terms of adoption laws, even marriage laws.
If I, as a Hijra, from Mumbai, if I have to go to Pune, I had to get a bill signed or something signed from the collector or the district magistrate at that time, and then I could travel. Our entire properties, because हमारे में कोई माँ बाप नहीं होते, हमारी जो गुरु है वही हमारे माँ पिता बाप बहन सब कुछ होते हैं. सो उनका जो प्रॉपर्टी है वो मुझे मिलेगा राइटफुल. या फिर अगर हम 10 बहनें हैं, 10 चेले हैं उनके, तो हमारे में बट कर आएगा, वो प्रॉपर्टी तक हमें ले दिया गया. तो our community has been ostracized a lot.
Yeah, and I think it's time now to actually recognize differences to celebrate them, because I think it is very much important for all of us to understand that not all of us start from the same point, and the kind of differences that exist around us, they're not here to get ignored, because you will never be able to bring in everybody at the equal platform. But to recognize that there are differences and to celebrate those differences is what is more important. And I think very clearly Nandini put that out. And like she mentioned, that for us, it is important to actually understand and believe in your own self, because when you will realize your own potential, you will convert your privilege into an opportunity, right? So moving on, I have my next question for Sourav. Sourav, you yourself had your own journey, like apart from being somebody who's taking care of training department, you have had your own journey of acceptance. I'm sure many of the rejections as well, and a struggle to find your own self and zeal because I think that is what is more important, to live your authentic self too. Because like you mentioned that you come from a joint family, and family acceptance is still a very big challenge. And I think you also, Mohul also mentioned that parental acceptance is very difficult. And let me also reiterate, like like I was having a conversation with some of the parents of queer children last month, and they also mentioned that every time a child comes out to their parents, that time parents go back into the closet, because they need to understand, they need to figure out what to be done next, and they also take their own time to do that. So adding all of that, Sourav, I would like to understand more about how has been your self-acceptance journey.
So my journey of accepting myself, as I said on my earlier note, that it was a roller coaster ride. Like slowly and gradually coming from one kind of a family, it's very difficult for you to come out or your family to accept of what you are. Okay, so but I I would just say that I was blessed, or on a positive note, that people accepted me the way I was, and it was not a very much of turbulence which was made or done in my life. But yes, my family, so my mother especially supported me a lot, and that helped me to overcome all the turbulence in my life, or the way people looked at me, because I'm somebody who was not easy, but it was made easy for me. So ये चीज मेरे लिए accept करना, ताकि, और I always believe that the way you accept yourself, if you do not accept yourself, nobody will. So you need to accept yourself for people to accept. That has been my motive since day one, and here I am in front of all.
Thank you, Sourav. I think it is very much important to just believe in yourself, because nobody actually will change what you can do for yourself. And I think that sort of motivation is very much important, especially when you realize and understand the difference that you carry within yourself, and to recognize that also is something which is very courageous of you. And I think it is because of some, I still reiterate that there are only some queer out and proud people. So I think it is again to celebrate and recognize these of the stories, because had they not been come out yet, probably we would have still been struggling. And so many of the queer folks have been into something very different kind of a zone to really believe in their authentic selves. And Mohul, I think you were mentioning as well during your conversation that school has been tough. And I also know that when you had come for the interview, you very specifically mentioned that you're just 10th path, and the reason behind you leaving your school was the dress code, right? And of course, I'm certainly nobody to comment, because I think it really gets difficult when you are asked to behave or dress up in a certain way, because I'm sure most of the men in this room would probably not dress up like a woman to attend a conference or to go to school or college, right?
Yeah.
So I think this is again very much important for somebody who identify themselves as man, and they're asked to dress like a woman to go to the uniform, go to the college or school for that matter. Mohul, tell me about, I'm sure, like sort of rejections because of your voice in the initial phase when you were on your hormone replacement therapy, and then of course your entire transition, and then securing a job in a 5-star hotel without that sort of an education background. How has been like journey? Because I think now I personally like to tell everybody here as well that almost 90% of messages that we get from the trans men community are because of Mohul's story. That we heard Mohul speaking, and he has been really an inspiration, and are one of the reason why we have proud over 70 trans men working with us across the group. So I think this I give it to Mohul, because I think the set or the kind of narrative that he had brought to the table is something that we're celebrating across the country now. So Mohul, over to you.
Yeah, मतलब I agree with thank you so much, well Akshay sir. Like मुझे तो पता भी नहीं था कि okay इतने सारे लोग हैं जो मुझे अपनी इंस्पिरेशन मानते हैं. And this is what I want, you know, like since my childhood के I just want के मतलब एक दिन ऐसा आए कि मैं जब अगर मेरी वजह से किसी एक ट्रांसमैन की भी जिंदगी अगर बदल सकती है, which means कि okay मेरा खड़ा होना एंड खड़े होके बोलना मेरी लाइफ का सक्सेसफुल एक वो हो जाएगा कि ओके फाइन, मेरी वजह से किसी एक इंसान की लाइफ चेंज हुई है। एंड यू टोल्ड मी कि दैट 90% ऑफ मैसेजेस बिकॉज ऑफ मेरी वजह से आते हैं। दैट्स रियली मीन्स अ लॉट फॉर मी। सो आई टोटली एग्री विद नंदिनी जब मैं उनकी कन्वर्सेशन सुन रहा था कि द टफेस्ट पार्ट ऑफ आवर लाइफ इज स्कूल। आई स्टिल रिमेम्बर कि मैंने बचपन से अपना हेयर कट एक बॉय की तरह रखा है एंड 6 से लेके 10 तक मैंने गवर्नमेंट गर्ल्स सीनियर सेकेंडरी स्कूल से पास किया, मतलब पढ़ाई की है। एंड मेरा चलना, मेरा बोलना, मेरा खाने का तरीका, मेरा खड़ा होने का तरीका, मेरा गेम का तरीका, हर एक चीज मेरी बचपन से लड़कों वाली रही है। एंड I got lot of like discrimination from the teachers, like आप ऐसे क्यों खड़े होते हो, आपके बाल लंबे क्यों नहीं है, आप लड़कों की तरह क्यों क्यों बोलते हो, एंड तुम्हारा अफेयर लड़कियों के साथ क्यों होता है, हर दूसरी लड़की के साथ तुम्हारा नाम आता है। इवन दो मेरे टीचर्स ने मेरे फादर को बुला के मेरे सामने कंप्लेन की है कि आपकी बेटी के बाल लंबे करो एंड वो गलत रास्ते पे चल रही है, इस तरीके से एंड ऑल। तो सबसे बड़ी बात कि आप अगर हम बात करते हैं लाइक एजुकेशन सिस्टम की, लाइक के आई एग्री कि अब हम कॉलेजेस में बहुत चेंजेस आ रहे हैं। आई टोटली एग्री विद दिस, बट व्हाट अबाउट स्कूल लेवल, लाइक बिकॉज एक इंसान, एक ट्रांसमैन पर्सन, एक LGBTQI कम्युनिटी का जो एक पर्सन है, उसकी जर्नी स्कूल से शुरू होती है, उसको अपने आप की समझ स्कूल से आती है। राइट, एंड इफ यू टॉक अबाउट ड्रेस कोड, जैसे कि मैंने 6 से लेके 10 तक मतलब गर्ल्स स्कूल में पढ़ाई की है, एंड आप समझ सकते हो कि मेरे लिए कितना डिफिकल्ट है स्कर्ट पहन के रोड पे चलना, जहाँ मेरे बाल कटे हुए हैं, मैं बात कर रहा हूँ लड़कों की तरह, हाउ डिफिकल्ट, एंड वो कितना ट्रॉमा, मतलब वो कितना मेंटली मेरे लिए इफेक्ट करता होगा वो सब चीजें स्कूल में जाके सुनना। मैंने 11th-12th इसलिए नहीं की बिकॉज लाइक 11th और 12th में गवर्नमेंट स्कूल में आपको सूट पहनने के लिए बोलना, मतलब पुश, मतलब आपको मतलब ड्रेस कोड ही स्कूल है उसका। तो आई ड्रॉप आउट माई स्कूल, बिकॉज मुझे नहीं पहनना था स्कूल। तो सबसे बड़ी बात यह है कि हमारा ड्रेस कोड का जो सिस्टम है ना, एंड हम कॉलेज लेवल पे हम लोग काम कर रहे हैं, बहुत अच्छे से काम कर रहे हैं। जब प्राइड शुरू हुई थी, आई हैव सीन अ लॉट्स ऑफ प्राइड मार्च from the different colleges entire the India, but what about school? क्या हमने entire Pride month में किसी एक स्कूल के की तरफ से हमने कुछ सुना? No. What about those students जो अभी स्कूल में अपने आप में पढ़ रहे हैं and they are in the closet, वो बाहर नहीं निकल के आ रहे हैं because जैसे नंदिनी ने बोला कि वो स्कूल में सेफ नहीं है। वी फ्रॉम दी लोग, मैं मतलब कितने ऐसे ट्रांसमैन हैं जो कोविड स्कूल में पढ़ रहे हैं, राइट, जिनके साथ भी डिस्क्रिमिनेशन होता है, जिनके साथ सेक्स हरेसमेंट होती है, जिनके साथ बहुत सारी चीजें होती हैं। व्हाट अबाउट देम, एंड ओके विद दैट पर्सन, एंड व्हाट अबाउट द जेंडर नॉन कंफर्मिंग पर्सन, उनके ड्रेस कोड का क्या, जो अपने आप को किसी सर्टेन बॉक्सेस में नहीं रखना चाहते हैं। तो आई थिंक लाइक इफ यू टॉक अबाउट दी थिंक कि हम कॉलेजेस में काम कर रहे हैं, बट उससे पहले हमारे पास एक और चीज है जो फर्स्ट से लेके 12th तक होती है, हम उस पे भी हमें वी नीड अ रोड मैप सो दैट वी कैन वर्क ऑन दैट। मैंने आज तक कभी ये नहीं सुना, अपार्ट फ्रॉम दिस ओनली वन स्कूल जिसमें अक्षय सर जाते हैं सेंसिटाइज करने के लिए, एंड उसके अलावा मैंने आज तक कभी ये नहीं सुना है कि गवर्नमेंट स्कूल में कोई हमने आज तक कोई सेंसिटाइजेशन प्रोग्राम किया है। DPS में हमने कोई सेंसिटाइजेशन प्रोग्राम किया है। वी लॉस्ट अ चाइल्ड इन दिस स्कूल गुड़गांव में, इफ यू रिमेम्बर, बिकॉज ऑफ देयर सेक्सुअलिटी, बिकॉज ऑफ उनकी उसकी मॉम ने जाकर उससे बात किया। वी लॉस्ट हिम। हाउ मेनी ट्रांस मैन, हाउ मेनी LGBTQ पर्सन, लोग, हम बच्चों को खो देते हैं। we lost them because of their dress code, because of के अब वो सब कुछ छोड़ो, आप ये सोचो हमारे 8th क्लास में एक साइंस में एक चैप्टर है रिप्रोडक्शन का, हम लोग उसे स्किप कर देते हैं मोटा मोटा बता के क्वाइट स्कूल में, एंड हम लोग वहां तक नहीं जा रहे हैं, तो हम लोग यहाँ पर कब आएंगे? एंड आई थिंक इट्स टाइम टू, वी नीड अ रोड मैप, वी एक्चुअली नीड टू क्रिएट अ रोड मैप। आप लोग जितने भी यहाँ पर ऑडियंस हैं, आई एम श्योर कि आपके बहुत सारे मतलब रिलेटिव्स होंगे जो स्कूल्स में पढ़ाते होंगे, या बच्चे होंगे जो पढ़ते होंगे। तो आई थिंक वी नीड टू लाइक टॉक अबाउट दैट। इफ यू टॉक अबाउट आई हैव अ यंगर ब्रदर, लाइक वो कल ही 14 का हुआ है, and I always try to educate him the way, like, मतलब मेरे mom dad का divorce हो गया था when I was 10, he was 1 year old, and since he saw me, he always called me a भैया, because उसने मुझे देखा है कि भैया ऐसे 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 रहते हैं. I try to, and I always educate him about the LGBTQI community, because अभी स्कूल में है, ताकि एटलीस्ट उसके स्कूल में कोई ऐसा इंसान हो, उसके साथ कोई भी डिस्क्रिमिनेशन हो, एटलीस्ट वो उसको, उस इंसान को उसे ट्रॉमा से निकाल सके, या आगे जाके जब ये स्कूल रहेगा तो एटलीस्ट वो उसकी हेल्प कर सके. सो आई थिंक वी नीड टू एजुकेट, वी स्टार्ट टू एजुकेट इन अ स्कूल लेवल, क्योंकि कॉलेजेस में हम बहुत कर रहे हैं, बहुत कर रहे हैं, एंड आई ऑलवेज अप्रिशिएट दैट कि एटलीस्ट कॉलेजेस में कर रहे हैं. बट अबाउट स्कूल्स, जो लोग एलजीबीटी कम्युनिटी से हैं, जो लोग जेंडर नॉन कन्फर्मिंग हैं, हम उसी चीज से बात नहीं कर रहे हैं. हम लोग ड्रेस कोड पे सिर्फ बात कर रहे हैं, बट अबाउट द वेयर इज द रोड मैप, एंड आई थिंक वी नीड अ रोड मैप. मुझे मेरी जॉब नहीं मिली बिकॉज ऑफ माय वॉइस, कि मैंने आई लॉस्ट माय डैड इन 2017 इन दिसंबर, एंड मुझे जॉब नहीं मिली बिकॉज ऑफ माय वॉइस, क्योंकि मैंने अपना एचआरटी स्टार्ट कर दिया था. 6 महीने में मेरी जॉब, मेरी वॉइस चेंज हो गई थी, एंड मैंने अपना लोकल बीपीओ मैंने ट्राई किया था, एंड उन्होंने फोन पे ही मेरे को रिजेक्ट कर दिया था, बिकॉज उन्होंने कहा था कि आपकी वॉइस जो है, आपके रिज्यूमे में जो आपने फीमेल लिखा है, वो मैच नहीं हो रही है. सो लाइक के, एंड आई एम श्योर कि ऐसा कहीं ना कहीं नंदिनी जी के साथ भी हुआ होगा, सौरभ के साथ भी हुआ होगा, सब कुछ चीजें हैं. बट लाइक ये है कि चीजें बदल रही हैं, बट आई जस्ट वांट के हम स्कूल लेवल पे भी काम करना शुरू करें, सो दैट कि जितने लोग बच्चे हैं एलजीबीटीक्यू कम्युनिटी से, जेंडर नॉन कन्फर्मिंग बच्चे हैं, वो एटलीस्ट अपनी एजुकेशन तो पूरी करें, because I know how important is education for us, especially in school level. So that's it from my side, Akshay sir.
Thank you, Mohul. I think I'll straight away go to Nandini on this part, because Nandini, beyond just being assistant manager at the Lalit Mumbai, is also very actively involved with the LGBTQI spectrum. She has worked a lot with the communities before as well, and has been still contributing. Nandini, out of your experiences, I would like, from especially the Hijra community, I would like to understand what is expected, especially because, like you very clearly mentioned, that you certainly don't need acceptance because you are now enabled yourself enough, but there are still not many people who are still figuring out their identities. How can education institutions make it safe and inclusive for them? Because I think for even parents, we certainly do know that at this point, we have a lot of faculty members, because gender sensitization is not part of any faculty development program either, right? And whilst we are talking about the young generations, but I personally feel that the younger generation is more sensitized and is aware about the community than to the other slot. Because I personally have been delivering sessions since last 4 years, and out of 100%, 95% of population that I have catered to aren't even aware about the intersex community, aren't aware about the LGBTQ spectrum. Whilst they certainly know that there are men who loves men, there are women who loves women, but they don't know how to label it, right? So in those are the situations, what do you think is more important for education institutions to do to ensure a safe space for queer folks?
See, I understand the problem of educational institutes. Okay. I can be very blunt at sometimes, and Akshay always calms me down. So, see, I understand their problem. To run any educational institute, you need students to come in. And when you will speak about LGBT community, maybe parents would not admit or enroll their children in those schools. That's a different part. What we can do is, जब किसी अगर कोई बच्चा अगर कोई हेल्दी है, कुछ ज्यादा ही फैट है, तब अगर उससे कोई चिढ़ाता है तो टीचर स्टैंड लेती है कि डोंट डू दिस. They are not saying that we are pro body shaming, we would not allow. Don't, हमारे बारे में भी ऐसे मत करो. Don't make us feel like a special child. We are very similar to every child who is in this school. What you have to do is, if you see anyone who has been disturbed or who has been harassed by other students or other teachers because of their identity or sexuality or their behavior or the way they talk, the way they walk, or the way they even speak or dance, stand up for them. And trust me, that child will remember you for life. Tomorrow, some that similar kid will be in such kind of a session and वो बोलेगा कि मेरे स्कूल में ये टीचर थी या ये सर थे जिन्होंने मुझे इस वक्त पे साथ दिया, अगर वो नहीं होते तो मेरे साथ नहीं होता. And as a teacher, because I've also been a teacher, I used to volunteer with Teach for India, and if given a chance, I would love to be a teacher, because I think teaching is a job where you can change minds, you create the future. With the present, you create the future. You can actually change perspectives of children. And trust me, I have taught 40 students in a BMC school about the chapter which Mohul mentioned, reproduction. Because when I was in school, मेरी टीचर ने मुझे इतना गंदा फील कराया था, तो मैंने बोला कि now that I have that kind of privilege that I know about my community, why can I speak about them? So I took that chapter, I took biology as my class, and मैंने अभी वो 40 बच्चे ऐसे हैं कि वो लोग किसी के साथ भी discrimination नहीं करेंगे, that I can write on the paper and give it to you. That's the first point. So whenever you see discrimination happening with any kid in your school, in your college, stand up for them. I was in karate classes, and big girls have stood up for me. I always wanted to be in a dance school, but my dad never appreciated my dancing skills. That's one complaint which I'll have, have for him forever till I die. But I was enrolled in a karate school, and I'm an orange belt. I don't know anything about karate now, but to even to reach till orange belt was a journey. I mean, it was a very tough journey. Always you've been asked to be strong like a man. Always been asked to fight in a certain way, run in a certain way. My dad used to feel very ashamed when he used to come for my school में होता है ना running competition, hopping competition. I never used to participate in competitions. I love dancing, but मेरे को कभी teachers ने dance competitions में लिया नहीं. So a lot of such stuff. So encourage children, and they will show their true talent to you. Just because they are LGBT, do not discriminate with them. Stand up for them. You don't need to be out loud and proud and say, oh, we support LGBT. Don't do that. But just support children in general. Any children, any child for that matter. They can be discriminated for any reason, even for having a bad handwriting, which I think should improve. But yeah, I mean, any small thing, and that can make a really big change. Because if you'll see, and if you'll talk to people from my entire community, you will see that our school lives have been the worst days of our life. वो memories होते हैं school के, जो कहते हैं ना कि अरे हमारे school में हमारे memories थे. I have not even attended my farewell. And when I see all these people dancing in farewell, I'm like, what? I mean, I never got a chance to do that. I had to always hide myself. There's a phase in every person's life where you try to be someone else who you are not. Many people try kiya hai. I used to have a beard, and till now my beard patch can be visible. Iske upar bhi log bolte, if you're a transgender person, then why is still your beard patch is visible? Because I do not have enough money to get my treatment done. And do you think the treatment is done easily? The moment they'll put the laser gun on your face, you will dance like Sri Devi. It's so painful because everyone वो एक ऐसे लगता है ना किसी ने आपके अंदर सुई चुभाई है गरम ऐसे पूरे फेस पे होता है. I've done that. HRT, when I started my hormone treatment, I went mad. I'm a very moody person, and then when I took pills, I became extremely moody. So to manage it with my work was too much, and then I stopped. Now I'm off HRT. And now I'm realizing why I have stopped it, because I need to change. I need to get my implants done this year, and I need to be on HRT. Luckily, I have that kind of pocket that I can get my implants done, but I need to start HRT very soon. So our lives are not easy. We risk every day of our life, and people need to understand that you don't accept us. It's your choice, but you need to respect every human who is in front of you. Basic respect can be appreciated. Acceptance is your choice, if you want to accept or not. And I have so many girls come to me कि हमारे माँ बाप हमको accept नहीं करते, हमको घर छोड़ना है. And घर छोड़ना is not a solution. I know घर can be traumatic. घर can be really traumatic. Discrimination starts with your home most of the times, and it can be traumatic. But for that, you need to be financially stable in your life. that तुम घर छोड़ सकते हो अगर तुम्हारा वो डिसीजन है. फाइनेंशियली स्टेबल होना, आज मेरे माँ बाप ने मुझे एक्सेप्ट नहीं किया. माय पेरेंट्स वुड बी वेरी हैप्पी इफ आई वुड गो बैक, if I would detransition, and if I would live life on their terms, they'll be very happy. But the reason मैं ये सब करके भी today I'm the only breadwinner of my family. I pay for my house rent, I pay for my groceries, ration, मम्मी पापा का खर्चा, मेरा खुद का personal खर्चा, you know, because I do shows and everything, so I have my own needs. And उस करते वो अभी हमारा डील ऐसे चल रहा है मेरे माँ बाप के साथ कि I am dependent on you and you are dependent on me. अगर आप नहीं रहोगे तो मुझे घर पे आके खाना बनाने में कोई इंटरेस्ट नहीं, तो कोई तो मुझे रहेगा जो 2 वक्त की रोटी दे जब मैं घर पे आऊँ. और उनके लिए बिकॉज दे आर ऑलमोस्ट दे हैव क्रॉस्ड 60s, दे आर विद मी बिकॉज मेरे सिवा उनका कोई नहीं है हु विल टेक केयर ऑफ देम. सो इट्स अ डील which we are dealing with. They have problems, but they are slowly starting. My mother, I always used to think कि मेरी मम्मी कभी accept नहीं करेगी मुझे, कुछ भी हो जाए. My dad would do that, but my mother would not. And ऐसा हो गया कि my dad is still getting okay and my mother is like okay fine, so I don't care, okay ऐसे तो हो गया है. I come from a South Indian family. हमारे यहाँ पे एंड मैंने बहुत स्ट्रेटेजिकली हर चीज अपने लाइफ में प्लान करी थी. व्हेन आई रियलाइज दैट आई डोंट वांट टू लिव लाइफ फुल ऑफ फेकनेस, मैंने अपने रिलेटिव्स को सबसे पहले दूर किया क्योंकि सबसे पहले गंद वही मचाते. सो आई मूव देम अवे. उसके बाद देन आई स्लोली स्टार्टेड मेकिंग अ पाथ फॉर माई सेल्फ. I start luckily someone called Vinay who he saw the talent in me and he gave me my first show of my life, and that's how my journey has begun. Then I started doing shows. I met a lot of people. My personality, my perspective changed in life. And today, as a transgender woman, as a hijra woman, when I walk on street, people expect me to be like बहुत feminine होने का ऐसा उन लोग चाहते कि if you are a trans person, then you should be extremely feminine. I'm like, no, I don't relate to that kind of feminine stuff. I can't do that. I'm a very tomboyish kind of person. I just can't do it. If you'll pay me, I'll do it because I'm a good actor. You pay me, I'll act. But I can't do it. This is my real self. And that is how our lives have been. I've seen many colleges where teachers force their children to sit in a LGBT session. Please बैठो. तो मैं उनको यही बोलती हूँ, यार आप इसलिए मत बिठाओ या फिर आप इसलिए मत बैठो कि आपके 5 मार्क्स ग्रेड के बढ़ेंगे, उसलिए मत बैठो. मैं आपकी जिंदगी के बारे में जब छोटी थी ना तब से पढ़ रही हूँ. तब से मैंने यशराज की मूवीज में सिर्फ श्रीदेवी और ऋषि कपूर को देखा है. मैंने कभी श्रीदेवी और माधुरी को साथ में कुछ करते हुए नहीं देखा है. मैंने कभी श्रीदेवी को श्रीजीत मुखर्जी में बदलते हुए नहीं देखा है. सो मैं तो आपकी जिंदगी के बारे में बचपन से पढ़ रही हूँ, जब से मैं अपने माँ के कोख में हूँ. अभी ये टाइम है कि you should learn about my lives too, because I have given examinations about your lives. I have seen your lives. Now it's the time that you should see my life for what it is, to understand how our life functions, and not because you're going to get 5 grade marks. आप अगर 5 grade marks की mentality से आओगे तो आपको शायद 5 grade marks मिल जाएंगे, but then you would not grow in life. And then you can't be the employer जहाँ पे मैं अपने बच्चों को काम मतलब बोलूँ कि यार please take my kids या फिर please take my kids for education. वो नहीं हो पाएगा.
Very well said, Nandini. I think this is very much important, especially जब हम बहुत सारे communities को एक साथ लाने की बात करते हैं, एक platform की बात करते हैं, we oftentimes just ignore about the background people are coming from. And we just imagine in our own thought of bubble that everybody is coming from the same place, same social, economic, political status, which is absolutely wrong. And I think when we cater to diverse population, it is very much important for us to bring in equity as an important factor, so that we can actually create that roadmap wherein we can understand more about the backgrounds and the stories of people that they are coming with. Oftentimes this happens in our life too, that not every morning is a good morning, right? And we go to our workplaces with an emotional baggage, and oftentimes we just burst on people. This is something which is not planned, but this is something which is very much important for us to understand, that this is how unprecedented life is all about. We are not sure if we are going to get up early in the morning or if we are just not going to get up, right? There is so much about life which is not planned, and that is the only reason why the whole premise, I think LGBTQI community in specific when we are talking about it today, without even doing any such crime, without even actually harassing or putting somebody at risk, are the only community which is at risk, because of just because we think that we, and also it is because we don't understand them. They know everything about us, but just because we don't understand them better, we haven't made enough of effort to understand the LGBTQI plus spectrum, and still we only put them at risk. And I think this is something which is to be ignored, which is to be minimized and eventually erased out of, instead of erasing the identities that we are talking about. And that is the whole reason of us at Keshav Suri Foundation taking an initiative embrace, empower, and mainstream such conversations. I'm sure we have spilled enough of rainbow for the day. And I would now like to call in questions if there are any to any of my colleagues
Um,
or myself.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the panelists and the Keshav Suri Foundation. They have agreed to conduct a session at the International Media Conference by DMA Media School in association with Deakin University, Melbourne, Australia. So there is one question. Akshay, Mr. Pramod Kumar Pandey, one of the faculty members in DME Media School, he wants to ask, how have the NGOs been shaping lives of LGBT queer community members? Do you see rural, semi-rural population to be more challenging for having any kind of conversation on related to pertinent issues?
Okay. So I think, if I'm not wrong, and I think Nandini would agree, that most of the non-government organization, community-based organizations that are working close with the LGBTQI community, the premise of them working is not actually empowering the LGBTQI community, that the premise is about minimizing the case of HIV, and they are majorly based out of reducing HIV/AIDS in the country. So I think when it comes to actually mainstreaming and covering the LGBTQI spectrum, there are very organizations and now more of the corporate organizations that are coming forward to take initiatives to include and to also make enough of affirmative actions to make people feel recognized and valued. And I think that is what has been happening. However, when it comes to the rural section, I think we imagine them to be less of about the LGBT community, and that you will realize only when you go down and understand more about them. There are people, and I think the whole idea is to just do more storytelling sessions, do a lot of conversations, because they are certainly just not talking about it. And times when they are talking, they certainly understand it better, because in most of our lives we do see these people. It's not like this is a community which just came out of nowhere. This is one community which has always been here and who have been claiming their space over a period of time. Just sad enough on our part that we recognize transgender community as third gender in 2014 only, and sad enough that we just recognize same-sex partnerships in the 2018, while there's so much more to be offered to the LGBTQI plus spectrum. So when it comes to rural areas, I think a lot of more conversations. However, there are, especially when it comes to the trans community, there is a lot of acceptance. And now even last year, the Supreme Court, the central government also had introduced the Council of Transgender Persons, through which they are making enough of efforts. We last year only they had introduced clean shelter homes for the transgender community across country. And this is a large movement. It will actually decriminalize Section 377. They clearly stated that this judgment should go deep down in all the societies and to be read down across the country so that people are more sensitive and are aware. However, instead of judgment, COVID reached door to door. But nonetheless, there is a lot more to be done. And I think we all have our role to play in that journey so that we could sensitize people around us.
Yeah, thank you, Akshay. There is one more question. This is from my side. I just want to ask whether NGOs or maybe in particular Keshav Suri Foundation is contributing to know more about the parents' perspective. How the NGOs they are actually working to hold on the parents' perspective in understanding the community's relation with their parents, with the relatives, as well as within their peer group. बिकॉज मोहुल ने बोला, नंदिनी ने भी बोला कि पेरेंट्स की तरफ से ही सबसे पहले एक्सेप्टेंस होना जरूरी है. तो अब इस टाइम पर एनजीओज या सोसाइटी एज अ सोशल स्ट्रक्चर किस तरीके से पेरेंट्स के लिए ओरिएंटेशन सेशंस लगाने वाले हैं, लग रहे हैं, इसके बारे में थोड़ा सा बताइए.
So there is a group which is a car group of parents. They're basically a group of parents who are actually parents to the LGBTQI plus folks only. So they are the parents who had accepted their kids and are now sensitizing other parents as well in their journey of acceptance and belonging to their own. And we at Keshav Foundation have also partnered with them a number of times. In fact, last month, as part of our Pride Month initiative as well, we hosted a sort of a meetup of parents with the queer parents itself, so that people could understand what more is required. Like I mentioned, that every time a child comes out to their parent, the parent goes back to the closet. And they will also have their own journey of accepting their kids, because whilst it is certainly nothing to be worried, but always one thing that haunts most of the parents is not their own self, but the society. Like, how would the society respond to it? Whilst they only have embraced the femininity or masculinity of their kids themselves, right? Most of you must have noticed that there are not many parents who wholeheartedly give dupattas to their kids to perform at mehendi or haldi ceremony or even at any dance celebrations, and they want their kids to celebrate those identities. And the moment they come out, the moment that dupatta turns out to be their authentic self, it's difficult for them to accept. So I think there are conversations happening, and there is a lot more which is required. Now every city, as per my last meeting with the Swika group of parents, they also have their presence in 17 states of this country. So I think we are slowly going there. Even if there are, it's about positive deviant. Even if you find one person or one parent of the queer kid, you surely can take that message from one parent to 100 of parents, and from 100 to 1,000. And I think this is where we are going with this movement.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this wonderful session. I must say this session has actually touched the theme of our conference, though we are having many more sessions according to the theme, but this is actually, as Saxana sir has said, this is actually one of the kind of the first session where any institution has come up to discuss about the theme as well as about the topic of this panel discussion.
यहाँ एक क्वेश्चन मेरा भी था. मैं ये पूछना चाह रही थी कि क्या आपका फाउंडेशन जो है उसमें कुछ ऐसे आर्म फोर्सेस के लिए कुछ ट्रेनिंग या कुछ इसके बारे में सोच रहा है या करवाने का, क्योंकि मुझे लगता है, ये मैं अक्सर बात करती हूँ कि कुछ, क्योंकि आप एज ए पावर, एज ए स्ट्रेंथ देखें तो उसमें आप लोग कुछ ज्यादा काम कर सकते हैं उस लाइन में. तो क्या गवर्नमेंट से या कहीं से भी किसी एनजीओ से आपको इस तरह की कोई फैसिलिटी मिल सकती है या आप इसके बारे में कुछ सोच रहे हैं?
Can you please repeat the sector, ma'am?
Armed forces.
Armed forces. Okay, I think this is when it comes to the army or something related to armed forces, this is actually one of the most difficult areas to step into, because if you remember, like 2 months back, Onir, who is one of the queer film director, wanted to do a film on one of the gay man who came out being part of the army, right? And the government had rejected. So for somebody to be gay or lesbian or to be trans person in armed forces is very difficult. So I think that's one of the areas where we are still tapping and wanting to get. However, I must also congratulate the government of Chhattisgarh, especially their administration, because I think they became the first ever government in any Indian state to have given employment to 18 people to join their services in the police. So I think there's a lot more which is to be done, because especially it's not just about the community, but also ensuring if there is a place for them to get there. So I think to ensure that safety is of utmost importance for us to just have somebody be a part of it. And I'm sure there are already so many people, but are closeted because, of course, of less of acceptance.
But also there's a trans person from Tamil Nadu who is in the police service.
There's Pratika Yashini. So police, there are people. But I think when it comes to the armed forces or the army, there is a lot of resistance of involving people.
And technically, we have 2% reservations according to the transgender bill which was passed.
Yeah,
And
so
only Karnataka has taken action. Other states are sleeping. So we'll have to wake them up. I'll wake them up.
we need you to do that. Any more questions
Definitely.
for us?
Okay, so thank you so much, Keshav Suri Foundation, all the panelists, Sourav ji, Nandini, Akshay, Mohul ji, thank you so much. I request Khushi Srivastav to please take the session forward.
All the participants are requested to fill out the feedback form given in the chat box. You will receive participation certificate post filling out the form. Now, I invite Professor Dr. Shushmita Bala, Head DMA Media School and Chief Associate Convener, ICAN5, to give the concluding remarks. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Khushi. It was such an enlightening session. Listening to the stories of Mohul, Sourav, and Nandini was heart-touching, and at the same time, it jolted our minds. It made us realize that there is a genuine need of gender sensitization. If we want to create an inclusive society, we have to understand and appreciate the members of LGBTQ community. बेसिकली जब हमने इतनी सारी बातें सुनी सौरभ, मोहुल एंड अक्षय एंड नंदिनी की, तो मुझे लगा कि वाकई में अगर स्कूल लेवल से प्रॉपर उनको लर्निंग हो, सीखने को मिले, तो आगे की लाइफ इजी हो सकती है। लेकिन जब स्कूल से ही प्रॉब्लम्स शुरू हो जाती हैं, तो बच्चा कोई भी हो, नॉट ओनली कि LGBTQ या किसी पर्टिकुलर सोसाइटी से बिलोंग करने वाला हो, कोई भी बच्चा हो, स्कूल लेवल पे अगर उसको प्रॉब्लम होती है, तो वो आगे उसकी प्रॉब्लम्स बढ़ जाती हैं और फिर हमें लगता है कि उसको कोई मेंटल स्ट्रेस है या क्या रीजन है कि वो इसको इतनी प्रॉब्लम आ रही है या उसको समझ नहीं पा रहा है या क्या चीजें हैं ऐसी। तो जर्नी अगर बचपन से सही ट्रैक पे शुरू होती है तो आगे लाइफ बहुत आसान हो जाती है। सो वी नीड टू एजुकेट इन स्कूल ओनली। एंड जो एक बात सभी ने कही लगभग कि डिफरेंस जो है, अगर आपको फील होता है, इफ यू आर डिफरेंस कैरिंग योरसेल्फ, तो अगर वो डिफरेंस फील हो रहा है तो उसको बाहर आने के लिए, निकलने के लिए फैमिली सपोर्ट बहुत जरूरी है। अगर फैमिली में हेजिटेशन होता है बताने, या फैमिली खुद किसी को बताने में शेम फील करती है, महसूस करती है कि नहीं मैं बताऊंगा तो या बताऊंगी तो सोसाइटी वाले क्या सोचेंगे, अगर हमने हर टाइम सोसाइटी के बारे में सोचा तो रियली जिंदगी में कुछ भी करना मुश्किल है। ये एक पर्टिकुलर वर्ग की बात नहीं है, ये हर किसी के लिए मुश्किल है। ये हम लोग इस बात को समझ सकते हैं और ये एक्सेप्ट करना इस प्रॉब्लम को अगर फैमिली से ही शुरू हो जाता है कि ये प्रॉब्लम है, बट हम अपने बच्चे को एजुकेट करेंगे, उसको सोसाइटी में इस काबिल बनाएंगे कि वो जिंदगी में कुछ कर सके और अच्छा कर सके। लेकिन ये सही बात है कि जब हिजड़ा कम्युनिटी के लोग आते हैं तो उनको ये लगता है कि नहीं, हम अपने बच्चे को बाहर ना निकालें, कोई इसमें परेशानी की बात नहीं होती है। और लोग सोचते भी हैं कि हाँ, बच्चे को आगे प्रॉब्लम आएगी तो हम इस कम्युनिटी को दे दें। ये जो सोच है, इस सोच को बदलना बहुत मुश्किल है, लेकिन इतना भी मुश्किल नहीं है कि उसे ना बदला जा सके। उसको अगर हम ग्रेजुअली उसके बारे में सोचते हैं, और अब जैसे लगता है कि हाँ, लोगों ने सोचना शुरू किया है। मुझे मालूम है कि IP कॉलेज में एक लड़की थी और उस भी उसी सेक्शन की थी, लेकिन उसने अपनी एजुकेशन मींस ग्रेजुएशन किया, मास्टर्स किया, फिर उसने फिल्म बनाई और फिल्म वो प्रेजेंट की सबके सामने। तब लोगों को पता चला कि हाँ, ये एक्चुअली लड़की है जो इसने इस तरह का काम, मतलब बहुत अच्छा काम किया था। हम भी फिल्में बनाते हैं, छोटी छोटी डॉक्यूमेंट्रीज बनाते हैं, पर सिर्फ डॉक्यूमेंट्री बनाना मकसद नहीं होना चाहिए, हमें पर्टिकुलरली इसके बारे में सीरियसली सोचना चाहिए, तभी हम कुछ कर सकते हैं। क्योंकि LGBTQ के बारे में किसी को गाइड नहीं किया जाता, ये सही बात है, और उसकी इतनी प्रॉब्लम फेस करनी पड़ती है। स्टूडेंट्स को समझ नहीं आता, प्राइड परेड हमने निकाल ली, हमने सब कुछ कर लिया, लेकिन उस सब्जेक्ट को समझना और उस सब्जेक्ट के अकॉर्डिंग काम करना, ये इम्पोर्टेंट है। ये इंश्योर करना पड़ता है कि आप अपने को किस तरह से प्रेजेंट कर रहे हैं, क्या एक्सेप्ट कर रहे हैं। एक्सेप्टेंस जरूरी है, जो हम बार बार बात कर रहे थे कि एक्सेप्टेंस खुद से, फैमिली से, सोसाइटी में तब होगी जब हम अपने को एक्सेप्ट कर लेंगे। तो ये बहुत सारे इश्यूज हैं और बहुत सारा इसमें इस समय बोला जा सकता है, क्योंकि मैंने बहुत सबका सुना और मुझे रियली मैं बहुत अच्छा लगा और ये हार्ट टचिंग था सब कुछ सुनना, क्योंकि आप सुनते हैं, समझते हैं, एनालाइज करते हैं, रियलाइज करते हैं, बट पर्टिकुलरली जब आप मिलते हैं, उनकी प्रॉब्लम्स दिल से सुनते हैं, तो आपको ज्यादा चीजें समझ में आती हैं। तो थैंक यू अक्षय, मोहुल, सौरभ एंड नंदिनी, थैंक्स टू ऑल ऑफ यू। बहुत अच्छा सेशन था, बहुत अच्छा लगा सुन के। थैंक यू, थैंक्स टू ऑल ऑफ यू।
Thank you, ma'am. With this, we come to the conclusion of panel discussion 1. Now, I would like to invite my friend Riya Singh to extend the vote of thanks.
I am privileged to extend my foremost and heartfelt thanks to the session expert for sharing his valuable insights about the theme Understanding the Rainbow. Sincere thanks to management of DME, Aman Sahani, Vice Chairman, Justice Bhavar Singh, Director General, Professor Dr. Avikan Swami, Director, for their support in every endeavors being taken by DME Media School. Heartfelt thanks to Dean Media School, Professor Dr. Amrish Saxena, Head Media School, Professor Dr. Susmita Bala, for their motivation in planning and executing the flagship event of Media School. Thanks to Dr. Manaswi Maheshwari, Associate Professor and Associate Convener of ICAN5, for overall coordination for the International Media Conference. Thanks to Sumantra Sarthidas and Vishal Sahai, Assistant Professors, and Yogesh Sharma, Faculty at Media School, for digital and production support for ICAN5. Thanks to Dr. Manmeet Kaur, Associate Professor, and Pramod Kumar Pandey, Assistant Professor, for their efforts in supporting ICAN5. Thanks to Shruti V.S., Assistant Professor, Media School, for managing technical and cultural team along with student coordination. Mohammad Kamil and Sugitri Arora, Assistant Professor, for newsletter, press briefings, and media coordination support. Dr. Ritika Saxena, Assistant Professor, for designing and creative support. Saima Parvez and Dr. Sumedha for their support with social media management. I also thank Pavan Saxena, Anmol Mehta, Tulika Arora, CM Anand, Abhishek Yadav, and Jagan for administrative and logistic support. Student Convener Priya Yadav for her consistent support in ICAN5. All student coordinators from newsletter, production, hospitality, anchoring, cultural, and digital operations for their coordination and consistent efforts for the conference. Thank to all the researchers, participants who have sent their full research papers for this international media conference, and other participants of various sessions. Special thanks to our conference partners, knowledge partners, international partners, media partners, and cultural partners.
Now, I request everyone to please turn on their camera for a group photograph. Thank you, everyone. Stay tuned for the technical session 3, Facts of Advertising and Branding, Targeted Strategies to Influence at 4:30 IST, chaired by Dr. Pooja Mahesh. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Stay safe.